You look at what's happening around the ETFs. Because, again, the headwinds and tailwinds, because we've had these headwinds, some aspects around XRP have been behind other L1s. That's now catching up. You're seeing inflows into existing ETFs. You're seeing more ETFs go live. You're seeing more talk about this new category we call the digital asset treasury, the kind of micro strategy spin-offs, if you will, not literally, but kind of similar things. I think it's just going to continue to create a lot of tailwinds where XRP has been held back. I'm optimistic that through the balance of the year and beyond, when you're artificially held back, I used the analogy one time publicly, like if you hold a balloon underwater long enough, of course it pops up when you let go of it. And so we saw that happening over the next 6 months, but now we're seeing a lot of the organic and in some case inorganic through Ripple's acquisitions, things pushing the industry, the community forward, the XRP ecosystem forward that I think should really have a positive impact.
And we had to come at you early before the 5:30 p.m. update today because breaking news for the XRP community, the Nasdaq has released the official listing notice for a spot XRP ETF set to go live tomorrow. And this will be under the ticker symbol XRPC under Canary Capital. Massive day, phenomenal moment for the entire XRP community. And for everyone wondering, what is the timeline here? The Nasdaq finalizes certification of the 8-A filing today, and the trading debut on the Nasdaq will happen either tomorrow or Friday, pending no last-minute SEC comments or operational delays. And lucky for us, Johnny Krypto, the SEC is out of their office right now. But for the XRP community, ETFs going live in the USA, this is the moment we've all been waiting for.
It absolutely certainly is, Dobbs. We've all been waiting for this moment for many, many years, and it is time. It is upon us. But anyway, I'm very, very excited, and we are finally going to see what it's like to have our first ever in the USA spot XRP ETF launching live on Nasdaq. I'm very excited. I might even get up extra early for this one tomorrow.
And this could be just the beginning for the XRP community, guys. So if you're excited about these ETFs kicking off in November, smash that like button. And with these bullish statements out of Brad Garlinghouse, we're going to take the time during today's episode to explain exactly what's happening to the XRP community. There are some major misconceptions out there in social media stating that many of these ETF issuers have already positioned themselves by buying the asset XRP. We're going to dispel a lot of those fake rumors today, providing the facts, data, and information that our listeners need to be aware of in order to have a realistic perception of what's about to take place. With this new demand hitting the American markets, we could see dramatic surges in the XRP price chart, and those who are unprepared will be caught off guard. But what's most important, having a realistic plan for 2026. As these real products enter the market, it is sustained demand that will separate the wheat from the chaff, and it's projects like XRP that are set to outperform. Hello and welcome back to another episode of Good Evening Crypto, your favorite crypto news related channel. If you enjoy this content, smash that like button and subscribe, as you're going to get an update every single day, 5:30 p.m. Eastern time. And a brief update on the XRP price chart. Today, we're currently trading at about $2.33, but many are anticipating in the next 24 hours, this could dramatically change. And why is that belief taking place? That is because of the brand new update out of Eleanor Terrett just yesterday. Breaking news for the XRP community, Canary has filed the Form 8-A. This is the final step before it goes effective at 5:30 p.m. Eastern time. That is today, once the Nasdaq certifies the listing. When that happens, the last hurdle has been cleared, and the first XRP spot ETF will be set to launch Thursday at the market open on the Nasdaq inside the United States. And if you're excited about the first ever XRP ETF in the USA, smash that like button. If you're not excited, leave a comment underneath the video, Johnny. But this has a lot of people excited for several reasons. Number one, this is the first of what we're anticipating to be over 11 products that are approved in November. And I showed our listeners this list earlier in the week, where right now there is 11 different XRP-related ETFs listed as active or pre-launch at the DTCC today. We also have the United States government still on pause. They could resume on Friday. U.S. government comes back, all ETFs are approved at once, and maybe, just maybe, we get that supply shock moment we have all been waiting for. And that's what I think the XRP community is really excited about here. We are going to be breaking down the facts that you provided on your Twitter earlier, Johnny, how these ETF issuers are not allowed to purchase large amounts of XRP before the product goes live. So this adds fuel to the fire that is the supply shock many people are anticipating. What's your reaction? XRP's 24-hour countdown finally here.
Very, very exciting. The community has been waiting a very, very long time for this. The moment of truth has finally come. It's coming. Now, I just want to caution everybody this. When we first started talking about these things months ago, we thought they were all going to be coming right around the same day or right around the same time. And I think we're learning now, right? We've got to adjust as we get new data and information, Abs. And what we're learning is we're going to get one today, right? Starting tomorrow, I should say. And then from there, we'll have a bunch of these trickling in down the road, and we'll see how those come in. And why am I bringing that up, Abs? Because I think it's important for people to understand that how the money comes in versus how much of it comes in matters. The rate of money, the flow of money coming in. So $1 billion coming in one day versus $1 billion coming in over 10 days has a very, very different effect on the price. And so, I feel a lot of people were thinking, hey, you know what? There's going to be 20 of these happening at once. It's going to drive the price up. And that could create a massive supply shock. But that isn't the case tomorrow. So we just have to recognize that tomorrow we got the first one. And the nice thing is we're going to be able to see what kind of impact it does have on the price action. We're going to be able to see inflows and outflows and really, really analyze the impact of one of these. And what's cool is that'll give us some insight of what it could mean for the future as the rest of them come in. So I'm really excited to learn. This is an exciting time for XRP, for the community. As Brad said, they've been artificially held back for a long time. And now finally, we're on the forefront of being able to see what it can do without being held back by the SEC.
And what's exciting about this, Johnny, is that all these different companies will be going into the open market and purchasing XRP units off exchanges. Why is that so relevant? That reduction in circulating supply with this increase in demand, that is how you get explosive price action. And many listeners are asking us the question, can the XRP ETF issuers buy XRP in advance before they launch their XRP ETF? Well, according to Gemini, an AI service, the short answer is yes, but only a small specific amount called seed capital, not the large scale holdings that you might be thinking of. The ETF issuers will buy a tiny amount of XRP in advance for the seed capital, but they cannot purchase months worth of demand in advance. They can't even anticipate the XRP output and purchase that prior to launch. The regulatory structure that was created here dictates that the underlying assets are acquired by APs based on the demand after launch. Let me put that very simple. $500 million in demand means nearly $500 million in the underlying asset XRP that will need to be purchased the day of ETF launch. You want to talk supply shock? These are the moments that we've been waiting for, and we're going to be tracking these inflows publicly here on the Good Evening Crypto channel. If you're enjoying this content, smash that like button. I've got a major update to provide as well. Next Tuesday on this channel, Jake Claver will be joining us for a live interview, so be sure to hit that like and subscribe so you can tune into that interview. But Johnny, what is your reaction here now that we can confirm companies like Grayscale, Franklin Templeton, Bitwise, Canary Capital, Wisdom Tree, all these different asset managers, maybe they've gone out and purchased a very small amount of XRP, just a 1%, 2% allocation, but 99, 98% of that demand will have to be purchased day of as they come into these ETF products. What does this mean to you?
I mean, to me, that's what has me excited, Nabs. At the end of the day, everybody kind of kept thinking, and there was this thought thrown around that, oh, they've already bought up all the supply. They bought everything they needed in advance. And that's why I went and asked the question to AI, because I want to see, is that possible? Could they legally do that? And as you saw in the response, they can't. So the good news about that, Abs, is now the price action is going to be strictly driven by the demand for these assets or these products, right? And that's why I would have loved to have seen them all kind of come at the same time on the same day, and that isn't going to be the case, and that's okay. But I do feel like in weeks as we move on, like you showed in your chart, next week there'll be a bunch of them coming in. You could just see a steady stream of money just coming in, inflows like crazy, boom, boom, boom. And why is that beneficial? Well, now you're just taking supply off the shelf. And we all know the supply and demand rule. If you go to supply and demand 101, when there's less supply, the price goes up, my friends. And so that's where I'm excited.
Even adding fuel to the fire here, Johnny, is that there's a lot of people in the XRP community that believe when the government comes back, if this Canary product is live, the SEC is going to move very quickly to allow these other dozen ETFs to go live inside the American markets. That could mean on Thursday, we get the first ever ETF. That would be live tomorrow, guys. Friday, the US government comes back. Maybe it takes until Monday, but these XRP ETF products go live, and then we really get to test the waters of if we're going to go through a supply shock here in 2025. And I do want to take a moment to congratulate the entire XRP community who's been here through all this turmoil, all this adversity. Starting tomorrow, if all goes to plan, we will have an XRP spot ETF trading live on the Nasdaq. And that is something everyone in the XRP community has been waiting several years to celebrate. If you're excited about that, smash that like button. And we're going to shift gears just a little bit here as Charles Hoskinson shared some very interesting information in regards to ISO compliant tokens. There's a narrative that's been out there for quite a long time that none of these tokens are ISO compliant. And we know that. But the analogy that I like to often use is that every blockchain needs to have a certain scalability, a certain speed and efficiency to even handle the speed that is necessary to be ISO compliant. A product like Bitcoin can't handle it. Product like Ethereum can't handle it. XRP, XLM, Cardano, and HBAR, these are the ecosystems that were built to make money move at the speed of light. And I think that's what Charles Hoskinson is really hinting at here. He stated ISO 20022 support is essential to open banking and combining the TradFi and DeFi worlds. ADA is glad to be holding the line with XRP, HBAR, and Algorand, as well as several others. Well, somebody responded, this image shows part of the ISO website, and its meaning is very clear. There's a lot of confusion and misleading information on the web referring to ISO compliant cryptocurrencies, but those statements are not correct. This is from the ISO site here. The cryptocurrencies are not managed or not registered by ISO 20022. So there's a big caveat there that this project has no direct connection to any of those particular projects, but that's not what Charles Hoskinson is saying. Charles is saying that these projects have the speed and capability to handle being ISO compliant, and it's the blockchain ecosystems you're looking at on the screen that are set to benefit off this evolution. What are your thoughts?
So, Abs, yeah, this is something that's very common. There's a lot of confusion around this space. Let me try to just break it down very simple. Think of ISO 222 as the rule book. Like when you hit the ball, you run to first base, and the guy throws the ball and catches the ball, and before you get there, you're out. Okay, that's how the rules played. So when you're working on your code for these blockchains, you're writing in there the rules. Okay, if the guy gets thrown out before he gets to the base, he's out. You're kind of writing in how this is supposed to work so that now you're compliant. So if these companies decide they want to use your technology, they can feel confident that your technology meets the standard rules of how to play the game. And that's what they mean by ISO compliant. So it doesn't mean ISO goes out and validates, oh, XRP says they comply, I'm going to go validate that you've written our rules correctly. No, they're not going to do that. Instead, it's the other way around. They're waiting for the companies. Here's the rule book. ISO's give them the rule book. And you either follow it, you write your code so it works to it. And if it does, then you could say you're compliant. And that just means now you're available. Your technology is out there in case if a bank or something wants to use it. They're only going to be able to use things that are compliant to the rules. You can only play baseball with a wooden bat, not a metal bat, right? Now banks can go and say, oh, okay, these 7, whatever they were, XRP, HBAR, these are compliant, so I can go ahead and start using this. And that's what it means. And so it's so very confusing to people, but I hope that helps make it simple to understand that it doesn't mean they are being used for it today, but it does mean they could be adopted for it much quicker and faster than, let's say, a blockchain that isn't compliant. If it isn't compliant, it isn't going to be able to be used until they become compliant. Does that make sense?
I absolutely agree, Johnny. And when you think about all of the important catalysts that are still sitting in front of us, many people have forgot about the banking upgrade that's currently taking place in the background. We've got ETFs, we've got the Clarity Act, we've got the government getting involved with digital assets. It's like Jake Klaver says, many of these modernization of settlement systems are occurring in the background, and we won't know that they're taking place until they're being implemented. And before the masses know it, they're all leveraging blockchain products on an everyday basis. With all of this new demand and all of this new utility, it's very difficult for me to believe that we're heading into a bear market. And that seems to be the sentiment for today. So if you enjoyed this content, smash that like button. And we're going to wrap up today's episode with a reminder from Raoul Pal that when everyone says it's over, it won't be over.
Be careful. Don't get FOMO. Do all of the right things, and we'll go up to the next phase of correction zone. That's going to be harder because the next one that happens, we'll have a 35% drop, and you'll all say, is it over? And you'll definitely be sure it's over. And everybody on Twitter will tell you it's over, and it won't be over. By our work, we suggest that because of the elongation of the business cycle, because rates were higher for longer, the forward-looking liquidity suggests that, again, probabilistically speaking, without any guarantees, this whole thing goes into Q1, maybe Q2 of 2026, which would align with Trump's, trying to win the midterms as well. So everything's lined up for us. I think it started. So keep the faith, keep building stuff, and let's keep driving Siri forward with all of this.
If you enjoyed this content, smash that like button, subscribe to the channel, and we'll see you all in the next one.
Good night.